Welcome to the Power Your Voice podcast. I'm Delane Blazek, clinical counselor turned chief commercial officer and coach. This is where entrepreneurial women learn to grow revenue while staying all in on who they are. We're talking about real-world issues and nothing's held back. So if you've ever gotten on a call with a potential client and it felt awkward, forced, or like you were just asking questions to get through it, this episode's for you. Because today we're talking about how to actually lead that first sales conversation so it feels natural, it flows like a real conversation, and moves someone toward a decision. And you don't want it to feel like an interrogation. Now, if you've ever been on a call and halfway through thought, why does this feel like I'm interviewing them for a job that they didn't even apply for? Or worse, you know you're doing it. You logged on with your coffee, your notebook, and approximately 47 other questions you need answered before you can even breathe. You're like, okay, I just need to get through these and then I can sell. I can talk to these people like a human. But then you catch yourself. And suddenly the conversation sounds like, so what are your goals? What's not working? How long has that been happening? And what have you tried? And what is your timeline? And you're just checking boxes. Meanwhile, the person on the other end of the line is saying, am I okay? Should I even be here? Can this person help me? I'm not liking this vibe. And it happens a lot. But here's the truth. You don't need a million questions. You don't need a perfectly memorized script. But what you do need is to be very clear on something that most people skip. You need to know exactly what qualifies someone in as a potential client for you and what flags them as someone you should not be working with. Because that's okay. Sometimes you need to refer people out. You can't work with everyone because everyone does not fit for what you have to offer. And ethically, we should only be working with people that we know we can help. So at the end of a sales conversation, you either ask the person, do you want to move forward and learn more about what we have to offer? Or I don't think we're a fit, but I do know someone who can help you. Let me make an introduction. Because the reality is, you only need 5 to 10 really strong questions during this first conversation. Those questions are doing something very important. They're not just gathering information for you to hold off at a later time. They're helping you determine, can I help this person? Are they ready for this level of support? Is this the right fit? Sometimes we don't meet people that are the right fit. It could be personality as well. That's very important. Or is the timing, is it not right now? I'm sure you've heard that phrase, that no is the first 2 letters of not now. Or is it someone that would be better served by someone else? That happens a lot too. It's totally normal. And this is where your role shifts. You're not trying to just close a deal. You're making a decision alongside them because not every conversation should end in a yes. Some should end in, this isn't the right next step for you, but here's what is. That's leadership. And that builds more trust than trying to force something that doesn't fit. So when you approach the call like that, everything changes. You stop trying to get through your list and you start actually listening to understand instead of listening to respond. That's what a discovery is really all about. It's not just about collecting information, it's about creating clarity for them and for you. And right now, a lot of you are so focused on, am I asking the right questions? Am I doing this correctly? When do I bring up my offer? That you're not really present. You're just waiting for your turn. Yes, that's true. Let's call it what it is. You're not listening. You're preparing. And those two are very different things. A strong sales conversation doesn't feel like a checklist. It feels like momentum. It moves, it builds, it goes deeper where it needs to. So what does that actually look like? Instead of leading with, okay, let me ask you a few questions, lead with curiosity, real curiosity. Tell me more about what's going on. What made you decide now is the time to look at this? What have you already tried? And then, this is the part most people skip. You be quiet. You stay there. You don't rush to the next question. And you don't panic because you feel off track. Guess what? There is no track. Let me say that again. There is no script you need to follow perfectly. There is a conversation that you do need to lead. And this is where the shift happens. So instead of asking, what else do I need to ask? You start asking, What do I actually need to understand here to know if this is a fit or not? Because when someone says something like, I've tried a few things, but nothing's worked, that's not your cue to move on. That's your cue to lean in and say, tell me more about that. Why didn't it work? What was missing? Because that's where clarity is created for both of you. And let's talk about one of the most awkward parts of the call for most people, the transition. Because this is where things go from, I'm listening to, okay, here's my offer. And they're like, ooh, that escalated quickly. Guess why? We need a bridge. We need something that connects what they shared to what you recommend. And it can be really simple. It could be something like, based on what you're telling me, here's what I'm hearing. Now you're reflecting, you're leading. Now they feel understood. And from there, you can say, does that make sense to you? This recommendation is what I believe will help you. And then be quiet again. Because remember, it's a recommendation, not a pitch. You want the feedback. You want to hear what they're thinking. Because when you've qualified someone properly, you're not convincing them. You're guiding them. And that's a big difference. That's exactly what we refine inside the Power Your Pay coaching program, because this isn't just about asking better questions. It's about knowing how to think inside of the conversation, how to listen for what matters, and how to identify what qualifies someone in or out, and also how to lead with confidence either way. So you're not guessing, you're making decisions in real time. So let me give you an example. I've seen women go into calls with a full list of questions, and they're committed. They're getting through that list no matter what. And the potential client says something important, but instead of exploring it, they miss it altogether. And they say something like, okay, where's your budget? You lost it. That was the moment, and they just walked right past it. Because why? It wasn't the next on this list. So here's what I want you to take away. You don't need more questions. You need clearer criteria. You need to know what makes someone a strong fit for your work. What tells you they're ready? What tells you they're not? Because that's what allows you to confidently say, yes, I can help you, or no, but here's your next best step. And this is also the kind of shift that happens inside the Big Bold Beach Retreat, because this level of clarity doesn't come from more information. It comes from being in the room, practicing, getting feedback, and refining how you lead those conversations in real time with real people. So if your calls have been feeling awkward or like you're trying really hard to get it right, this is your shift. Stop interrogating, start listening, and start qualifying. And most importantly, please start leading, because the best sales conversations don't feel like sales. They feel like clarity for both of you. If you're ready for support in that, you can book a call with one of our coaches directly. We'll help you refine how you're showing up in these conversations so they feel more natural, you feel confident, and they will actually convert. You can find the link in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in to the Power Your Voice podcast. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. You do have what it takes to be a successful woman in business. And if you're ready to step into new levels of success, subscribe, share, and join me next time as we talk about building revenue and the life you actually want. Until then, stay all in and keep powering your voice.